Well, now to something quite different. This morning I do one of the exercises for the perfection of movement. This is usually called walking on the line. Dr. Montessori always noticed children wherever she went. And she was spending a weekend in the country, and she was watching the country children. And she was it suddenly struck her, the fact that you see everywhere, is that all country children climb, and they all of them enjoy doing some form of balancing along a straight line of some sort. If there's a fallen tree trunk, the children from a very young age will climb onto it and will balance walking along it. You see, one foot in front of the other. If there's a fence, they like holding on with their arms and walking along sideways. That led her to build watching those children led her to build the jungle gym, the climbing frame, I don't know what you call it. And then she noticed that they walk along the tops of the farm gates. In Europe, the farm gates are about this high, and they're big enough for a wagon or a tractor to go through, and the top bar must be about 3 inches wide. It's a big piece of wood. And then there are these bars all the way down and a crossbar. And all the children climbed these gates from a very early age. It was one of your great joys was swinging on these gates. And then at some point you would always climb onto the top and balance along the top. They seem to need to balance along a straight line. The city children, she watched the city children doing the same thing. The children have to find something in the environment that satisfies this need. And you see them doing it. When you see children everywhere, all over the world, doing the same thing, you know it's not accidental, it's purposeful. You see. That's why some of the psychologists, I was reading something, Piaget says how his little boy ends up by sucking his thumb. It was purely accidental. But you know, it's not accidental if every child of that age, everywhere in the world, sucks his thumb, as they do. You see, so you can't call it accidental. It is a purposeful activity. It would help get the teeth through, if nothing else. Yes, you'd have to bite on your gums before your teeth come through, and the children use their thumbs. So anyway, she noticed that the city children would walk along the lines between the paving stones, with the foot flat along the line and balancing, or they would use the edge of the curb, and you'll see them anywhere they're allowed to, balancing along the edge of the curb. It's more difficult for them nowadays to be in the streets, but before the days of cars, the children all played in the streets. So the streets were much safer. So then she devised an exercise that would give them this when they were in the schoolroom. And what she did was to paint a line about 1 inch wide in a large oval on her floor. As large an oval as the room would take. Well, of course, most rooms are rectangular. If it was an absolutely square room, you would have a circle. And then, when she had a very big room, she painted a second oval in the middle. And that was permanently on the floor. When it wore off, it got repainted. Now, sometimes you're in a church hall and they wouldn't allow you to paint the floor, But you can put the line down with masking tape. You all know what masking tape is that the builders use. And that lasts about as long as the painted line. If it's summer and it's very warm, you could do the line outside on the grass. In England we have these very flat grass areas, and you can do it with that little machine that does the marking out for a tennis court. I don't know if you have that here. And then the children can do it in the open air, which they like very much. At first, you get your children to stand on the line, putting the smaller ones on the inside line, if you have a second line, and you get them to stand equidistant apart, all facing the same way. Now, you can't really do this exercise in heavy shoes. It's very good for the children to go barefoot. They get much better developed feet, and so it's better if you can let them do it barefoot. And they enjoy that too. At first, they just walk as slowly as possible. Explain to them they have to go very, very slowly, just taking normal steps, but keeping the feet along the line. And you would practice that a few times till they were doing that easily. And then you would get them to take small steps. Very short steps. When they could do that, you would get them to walk heel to toe. Keeping their feet flat along the ground. Now we must try it this afternoon. It does require very good balance. It is actually one of the exercises that has been adopted for people who have to learn to walk gracefully. Actresses practice it, air hostesses, and girls who are with us who take a course to fit them to go into society, this terrible coming out. They go to a special school for 3 months to learn how to stand, how to talk, how to come into a room, how to curtsy to the Queen and all the rest of it. And one of the things you have to do is walk on the line like this so that you will be a little more graceful. Learn how to make up properly and what clothes suit you and all sorts of things. Pretty boring. But then you see them all standing around at cocktail parties and it's their feet in exactly the same way, because that's an elegant way to stand until you forget all about it. Well, I only say that to show you that it's a very good exercise for gaining this equilibrium and balance. Now, in many countries in Europe, like Spain and Italy, Yugoslavia, until very recently, and I think still in the really country areas, people do go barefoot or with rope-soled shoes. And the women carry everything on their heads. And they're the most graceful women you can imagine. They will carry a huge thing like this, anything they'll pick up and put on their heads, and they will walk over the roughest ground, uphill, downhill, and they never drop it off. You see, in Africa the women always carry their water pots home on their heads, because with your back straight, that doesn't give you slip discs and things. It is actually the best way to carry things. So these women always are very graceful. Now with the children, after they have learned to walk heel to toe, then you have to give them various things. They are inclined to curl over and watch their feet. So you want them to stand straight with their heads up and to forget about their feet. Let the feet just go naturally. one of the things we can give them are flags. Now, please don't think you have to teach your children patriotism. I mean, everybody likes their own bit of the world best. But today, so you don't need to teach that. But today we have got to be internationally aware that we are part of the whole world. And unless all people of the world see the world and use the world from that point of view, we are going to, in a very short time, be short of all the essential commodities and be short of water. See, if Brazil cuts much more of her big tropical forest, which the trees recycle and attract water, then I think North America is going to be short of water. So you create deserts by cutting down these big natural forests. Well, and there will be no fish left and no whales left and so on unless we can all cooperate as one world. So the children have got to become internationally minded. And you can be internationally minded without losing the love of your own country, because it's the spot where you grow up that matters to you, and your own family that matters to you first. But you can also be a member of a bigger group. So when you collect these flags, you can have one American flag, but collect flags from all over the world. And do not voice your political feelings on the children. You see, Russia, China are very great nations, and so therefore we have not got to teach children their political ideologies. We treat those countries as they deserve to be, historically and presently very great places. And by the time the children are grown up, probably all our small quarrels will be insignificant anyway. Now you keep these flags. I don't know if you know them. You know that one? Nigeria. Better not insult me by not knowing this. Turkey. India. Yes, that's the Soviet Union. Ceylon. Oh, I seem to have two of Ceylon. Well, you would give each child a flag and to hold up, you see, and they would have to hold their flag really high, and if they let it droop, you remind them, oh, all of you keep your flags very high, and then you have to stand straight, you see, and keep your head up, and if you watch the flag. Now the flags are kept at the side, beautiful chairs at the side. Anyone gets tired, they can drop out and sit down for a few minutes. Anyone can go and change their flag. And some flags they get very fond of, and they have real discussions as to which flag they're going to use. The flags, again, have a secondary purpose, third purpose actually. One thing, it makes them feel good towards all the other countries. Another thing is that they're useful in this exercise. And then again, you often have 5-10 minutes when you've got nothing to do. You put away too quickly, you're waiting for the parents. You see, oh, it's a wet day, and you've got some surplus time. Then you can make a circle, and the teacher can take one of the flags and tell the children very interesting things, both about the flag and the country. And she might have a packet of pictures for each country. So when she talks about the flag, she could show them pictures of the people and their buildings. Photographs are best. You can get beautiful photographs in every magazine. Photographs of them. And, oh, isn't it lovely, the little African children, it's so hot they don't have to wear clothes at all. and what beautiful saris the Indians wear, you see. And you always must say good things about every country. Now, you can also tell them something about the symbolism. You see, how did we get a flag so like this, so different to everyone else's? Well, it's called the Union Jack, and it was when England, Ireland, Scotland were united under one government. Now this straight red flag here was a flag, that's the cross of St. George. And because Europe was strongly Christian, and each country had Christian symbols. And for England, it was St. George was the patron saint, and that the central red cross is the cross of St. George. So our flag was originally a white flag with that red cross on it. Then, when Scotland joined, they have St. Andrew as their patron saint, and this red cross is the cross of St. Andrew, which was a red cross on white ground. So the two were superimposed. And then came the cross of St. Patrick, and I've a little bit forgotten St. Patrick. I think he was the white diagonal one. And when the three flags, or he may have been dark blue, when the three flags were superimposed, it gave you the Union, flag of the Union. Now, Nigeria, one of the more recent countries to be formed from Africa, green and white, and green stands for agriculture, and white stands for peace. So they adopted those colours as symbolic. Of course, Russia has the hammer and the sickle, and that is to honour the people who do the really hard physical work. And then the star, which was always part of Russian Empire. Now, whenever you see the crescent moon, you see it is a Muslim symbol, and I think most of the Islamic countries would have the crescent moon as part of one of the symbols on their flag. India, and this is a spinning wheel. And Gandhi, you remember, encouraged the cottage industries where people did skilled work in their own homes. And it was traditional for different families to do, some did brass work, some did beautiful weaving, some wove in wool with embroidery on the wool, and some wove in silk for most intricate patterns. This very fine skilled work is done in these little cottages that often have a mud floor and so on. And so he had the spinning wheel as a symbol for the cottage industries of India, which contribute largely to their economy. And this is Ceylon. And many countries have the lion as a symbol, and England does, because it's a courageous animal, you see, and it's not going to give in. You know, if you fight, you're going to fight, you know, and might as well fight at the beginning. So that's Ceylon. That's a very much older symbol. So the children are interested, you see. And you can get a book on flags, and you can read up the symbols of what the symbols mean in each case. And it often gives you something, an understanding of the people. You see, here you have a star for each state, don't you? You added another star when Alaska joined. The stripes are for the original 13, aren't they? Yes. The red stripes or the white stripes too. Is it just 13 stripes altogether? Yes. Well, of course, in England, the children are very fond of that flag because they like the stars. So that is a very nice way to use your flags as well. Well, now we have a variety of things that the children can carry to give them sort of added interest to vary the exercise. The basic footwork is the same, and walking as slowly as possible. The slower they walk, the more perfect the balance has to be. You can use background music or not, just as you like. If you use a background music, it has to be soft music, and it must not have a definite rhythm to it. Some people do use music, some don't. You can have these bags, which you can fill with something heavy like sand, or little stones, or beans out of the haricot beans are very good. And they hold these straight out to the side. This with the arms at right angles. And they have to carry them round. You steady the bag as soon as they're holding it. And they have to carry the bag round so steadily that it doesn't swing about. You have small glasses. Some of them need to be wine glasses with that thin stem. You know what I mean by a champagne glass? You're ever so lucky as to drink that. You can get small champagne glasses. They're very flat. So it gets on with different shapes. And at first you give them just half full of water. The champagne glass is by far the most difficult, having a wider surface. And they carry those round in front, and they mustn't let the water spill. When a child is very good with it, you can fill his glass up to the brim, you see, so he has to be extremely steady. It's rather nice to colour the water. You know, just 1 or 2 drops of food colouring, and you have bright green water or bright pink water. Looks so attractive. I mean, it looks so nice that somebody always drinks it, but it's not poison, you see. So that doesn't matter. But it looks very attractive to see all these glasses of coloured water. They hold them fairly high, so that they stand up straight, and they have to walk very steadily, not to spill the water. You can carry half of the pink tower round. If it's the smallest 5, then it's very difficult to walk round without letting the little one wobble off. You have to be very steady. And then bells. Again, the bells are held in front, and they mustn't ring. If anyone is a bit unsteady, you immediately hear their bell ringing. The bell must have been one of the earliest musical instruments. The drum, I think, was first, but it goes back a very long way. And in each country, you do find different uses for the bells and different bells. I haven't got all mine here, but I always buy a bell in each country I go to. It's amazing what beautiful bells you get. I've just got 4 different ones here. And again, I think you could begin collecting these different types of bells. And there are also, besides, this one will be quite difficult not to let it ring, walking round with it. But as well as being useful for this exercise, they have 3 other uses. The children love to have them just to ring them and listen to the different notes. Bells can be very musical. Lovely sound. Absolutely different. This bell is made with a round ball inside. Here's one for a set of bells. Two different types of bells. The one with a round ball inside. I got it in Cambodia, and it's the one that the water buffalo wears. And you know how farmers, when you don't fence your land, you have a very common thing is to hang a bell around the neck, so that if your animal strays far, the farmer can hear where it is. You see, now the water buffalo, it walks freely. There's no, if you were in the middle of a cleared patch in a Cambodian jungle, you see there'd be a very rough house on stilts because the land floods at some times. And when the buffalo wasn't walking, they're used for ploughing. Then he would have this round his neck, and he could wander away into the jungle and eat what he liked, but the farmer could always find him. And you see, this is just a simple bamboo tube, and these are two pieces of wood, and this tie is made from the fibre of a banana leaf. You see, they don't have shops. They absolutely provide everything themselves. And these hot jungles, this is the sound you hear everywhere. You know, it's really lovely on a hot day. I was visiting Angkor Wat and spent a week there. It's one of the places I always wanted to see. Well, I've got lovely bells. I've got a camel bell, again, which is one bell, and then they go on from one big bell down to a tiny bell, one inside the other. And as the camels walk they go by the ancient trade roads all through Turkey, Iran, carrying those very wonderful carpets. And as they walk along, the man walking leading them, they have this bell round their neck. And you see, each bell has a different note as it swells, so it's like chimes. That's a lovely bell, the children liked it. I got an Inca bell, perfectly round, in a village market in Peru. Beautiful round bell with just a marble ball inside. And then the Mexican bell is different again. In this area, somebody gave me one of your bells that were put every 25 miles along the Camino Real. And the children liked that very much. So, you know, and yes, they were really interested when I said I'd seen them and told them about the mission churches, and don't think they'll ever forget California. So each country has something. And so different. The Indian bell has these claws that all tuck under. You've seen it, haven't you? And then it has a ball inside that goes round. And they often in brass, very beautifully etched or very beautifully enamelled. They're used in the temples. I've got one or two of those. But again, you see, they have to walk round, and they know which bell is more difficult than another. And some are very difficult indeed, and they choose their own bell, or they can change their own bell. And you can also use the bells for music, because they all have these different sounds. They love brass polishing, practical life, and if I had these in the schoolroom, I mean, this brass leaf would be shining bright, and all these bells would be polished, because the children do love polishing them. And then again, you can use them to talk about other countries. You see? And immediately when I told them about this mission bell that somebody gave me, it was on a post, and they carried it by the post, and the little bell swung. you see, immediately they wanted to know more about California and America. And of course, I could tell them that all the oranges and the lemons and the avocados that came from here and so on, and how the whales passed down the coast, and, you know. Now this one is from Thailand, and it is made in Chiang Mai. They're handmade in Chiang Mai. That's the ancient capital up in the north. And this is a leaf, the leaf of shaped like the leaf of a banyan tree. They're Buddhists, and banyan meditated under a banyan tree. So there's a banyan tree in every temple yard. And they hang these by the hundreds all around the temple eaves. And every time there was a little breeze, it blows on the brass leaf, and all the bells will ring. It's the prettiest sound. You can hear it throughout Thailand whenever there's the least breeze.
Are they tuned differently?
There are different bells. They do, not necessarily tuned differently, but there are a lot of different types of bells. I have at the temple where I got this one. I did buy it. I'll tell you quickly because I'm sticky fingered. They were all the same, so they might let me have one. But I also bought another which had a different sound from the people who were just sitting underneath their house making them. This one, well, I got from an ox cart. He gave it me, this one. In the Azores, you know the Azores? And the oxen just wear strings off them, just like in Canada and here, the sleighs, the horses wear strings on the sleighs. Russia, the sleighs have strings of bells because it sounds so nice when you're driving over the snow. So one of your sleigh bells would be nice to have. But that one I got in Cambodia, and I bought it. I didn't take it off there. And this one was worn by a donkey. All the donkeys, all the camels also wear strings of bells. Turkey, yes. And as they go along, the bells swing and they tinkle. And interestingly, blue is a fortunate colour in Egypt and some of the Middle East. So there's a blue ring here just for good luck. And if you notice these big beads, you see that they have this decoration which is like an eye. And each bead has 3 of those great eyes. And they're meant to help the donkey to see. And if you saw how rough the paths were, well, the donkey would need some extra help.
May I share something? A friend of mine had a friend who grew up in Turkey, and when the babies are born, they pin those beads on their diapers for good luck.
Yeah, these were the seeing eye or just the blue ones?
They're smaller little seeing eyes, and they're actually pinned to the diapers.
Yes, well, the blue is the sign of good luck. They do have these in number of sizes up to enormous ones. I bought a string of them because I thought they were so attractive to wear, the beads. But this use of the bell for the animals, sometimes because it's just a nice sound as you walk along with your donkey. But also, if the donkey was grazing loose, you could hear where it was. And you see all through Europe, where you have mountainous country or rough country where you don't fence, the animals wear bells. If you went to Switzerland, where it snows in the winter, in the spring, as soon as the first grass melts, the cattle are led out to eat grass, and as the snow recedes, they are taken higher and higher up the mountains in the charge of certain men who probably spend the whole summer away. See? And each cow wears a bell because they just graze in this mountainous country, and the leading cow is always decorated with flowers and has a special bell. and she wouldn't let anyone else take her place. And Norway is the same. In Norway, I couldn't see, suddenly you would see a bale of hay or something shoot through the sky, churn of milk, and then you found it was on a wire. The wire led from the summer farm down to the valley, and you just hung your hay. You cut hay in every little patch you could get it, and slung it on the wire down to the valley. See, so that you didn't have to take your butter and cheese down by hand. So, but you have to be able to hear your animal if it gets into difficulties or anything, or if you're rounding it up to go home. And each cow probably has a bell with a different note. See? Very often you can't get these bells. I was lucky to get one in Scotland, in Switzerland, because the farmer's son gave me one with a really lovely sound. I was there. And then in Spain and Portugal, it's the same. Every goat, every sheep has a bell for that reason. And our bells differ a little in each country. All right. So, yeah. And you can make many uses, but the main purpose is to get this good equilibrium, to let the children practice something they do try and practice wherever you see them. They try and practice it naturally. Now the other thing you can have is a plank of wood called a balancing bar. Do you know what I mean by that? Dr. Montessori, at the same time, inside of her playground, she got a long, long plank and sunk it in the ground, so it was about 3 inches above the ground, and the children could just balance along the top whenever they liked. Since then, these have been made on 2 little stands. You get this long plank on 2 little stands, so it can be used indoors or out of doors, whether it's wet or fine. And the children just will spend endless time walking along that. And sometimes I have seen in our special centres children who have physical disabilities spending the whole morning practicing on the line or practicing on the bar. They seem to feel this need to do more exercise in order to get themselves straighter. So that the line could be available for children to walk on who had that special need.
Is it better for them to start in the oval shape or just a straight line?
Well, if you have a group of children, it's a bit difficult, a straight line, because what you do when you get to the end, you see, it's much easier to have a continuous line. That's the point of the oval line. If a child by itself, it wouldn't matter if it was an oval line or straight line, because they could always turn around and come back again. But you can't if you've got a lot of children behind you.
I always practice on a straight line.
Fine, but you're not going to turn around and bump into somebody behind you, you see. Whereas an oval line is much better when you have a group of children. And if you have a big enough room, a second line inside for the very young children, you know, who can go very slowly indeed. You wanted to ask anything else? We could practice it along the lines of these floors, couldn't we?
Did you say in a square room you would have a straight square?
No, I said it would be a circle if it was an absolutely square room. But most rooms are rectangular, therefore you want as big an oval as possible. And an oval is better than the square because you get more lineage, as it were. You don't want a little circle here in a corner. You want one that really covers the whole room, so you have a big area to walk in. I think some schoolrooms are being chopped up too much into little tiny areas, and it's very hard to do anything.